morning مطر دحروب هانية مريم ميرنا
Hi, Master. Hello, Master.
morning عمر الزيني بسنت Peter. This is Amar. Hello, Yauta. Minna. Just writing. Morning, Daniel. Sorry. Daniel. Okay, I have, let's say, 16 students in the room. Right now, I have Dahrub, Danielle, Farah, Hania, Luigi, Mariam, Minna, Mirna, Kiki, Nada, Omar, Basant, Peter, Selma, Yauta, and Matar. Selma, Yauta, and Matar. 16. So I have 16 students so far. Welcome all. Thank you very much for being punctual. I'm sorry I'm about 4 or 5 minutes late. Okay, I'll just share the screen. You remember yesterday we did up to page 111, if you remember. Let's remember that we are doing the Canterbury Tales, a story of stories told by or written by Geoffrey Chaucer, the father of English poetry. In this book, a group of people go on pilgrimage, about 30 pilgrims. They meet in an inn or a small hotel, and the host of this inn asked them to join them, and he proposed that everyone would tell 2 stories on the way to the Canterbury Cathedral and 2 stories on their way back, which makes 120 tales or stories. But the number of stories we have in the book is 24 only. We have 24 finished stories. And the narrator is the writer himself, Geoffrey Chaucer. Over the past few days, we talked about most of them, and now it's the Mansible's turn. We said that a Mansible is, let's welcome Mr. Gamal and Mr. Rashwa. Gamal and Rashwa. Okay. The Mansible is a steward at a low school. A steward or a caterer, you know the word caterer, at a low school. The Mansible, again, the Mansible is a person who was responsible for buying food for a low school. Welcome, Maya. The Mansible came from the inner temple. All caterers might follow his example. He was good at his job. In buying victuals, he was a good buyer. He was a skillful buyer. He was never rash. He was never in a hurry. He did everything patiently, whether he bought on credit or...
Sorry for being late.
Excuse me?
Sorry for being late.
No problem, no problem. This is Maya, right?
Yes.
No problem, dear. You're not that late. Okay. So he used to watch the market. He used to watch the market most precisely. Again, he was in responsible for, or he was in charge of buying the food and drinks for school law, okay, or a law of school, school of law, sorry, just confused. Okay, he was responsible for 30 students or 30 people. He was responsible for buying the food and drink for them. Maybe it was a boarding school where students study and sleep. Okay, he used to watch the market most precisely and go in first, and so he did quite nicely. Now, isn't it a marvel of God's grace that an illiterate, he was an illiterate, the man couldn't read or write. Can you imagine that? He is an illiterate and he is responsible for buying the food and drink for 30 students of law who are supposed to be very well educated. Fellow can outplace that an illiterate fellow can outpace, sorry, the wisdom of a heap of learned men. Yani, in other words, he was responsible for a heap, a group, a host of learned, educated men, his masters, the people he was responsible for. He had more than 30 then, 30 educated men, all versed in the abstrusest legal knowledge. They were, or they all were knowledgeable about law. Welcome, Summer. Okay, so uh, could have produced a dozen from their college, fit to be stewards in land and rents and game to any peer in England you could name. And he was the best.
Sir, being late.
Uh, excuse me?
I'm sorry for being late.
No problem. No problem. And show him how to live on what he had debt free. Yani he could teach anyone how to live or get by whatever he has or had, even if it is very little, or be as frugal as he might desire. Okay, he can teach you how to be frugal or to be or to save money and live or get by with whatever or on whatever you have. And they were fit to help about the shire. We said that shire means county. In any legal case, there was to try. And yet, this municipal could wipe their eye. Uh, we're done with the municipal, so let's revise what we said about the municipal. He was illiterate, he was cunning or shrewd in his methods. He has hidden away money for himself. From the things he bought, he has hidden, put aside some money for himself. These are the negative points about him. The positive points about him: he is in charge of purchasing food for the law school. He takes care of more than 30 lawyers in his dormitory. He was an extraordinary buyer, watched the market and got the best deals, and he was a frugal caterer. He knew how to save money and use the little or the least money he has and can do with it. Okay, let's move on to the reeve. And the reeve is the manager of an estate, or as I said yesterday, like kholi in Arabic, we call the manager of an estate like al kholi, a person responsible for an estate, especially when it's farmland. Uh, the reeve was old and choleric and thin. He was choleric means bad tempered, angry all the time. His beard was shaven closely to the skin. Okay, his shorn hair came abruptly to a top or a stop above his ears, and he was docked on top. This is his physical description, just like a priest in front. His legs were lean. Uh, he was a thin man, like sticks they were. His legs were thin like sticks. No calf was to be seen. He had no calf. You know, calf is the back of your shin. Okay, or semana as we call it in Arabic. He kept his bins and garners very trim. So no auditor could gain a point on him. And he could judge by watching drought and rain. He was an expert in this issue. He would tell you that next year we are going to grow cotton or wheat. Or how did he know this? Because he watched the weather or the climate very carefully. His master's sheep, his animals and hens, pigs, horses, dairies, stores, and cattle pens were wholly trusted to his government. He was responsible of all this stuff. His master trusted him with all his stuff, and he was under contract to present the accounts right from his master's earliest years. No one had ever caught him in arrears. Welcome, Shahid Ibrahim. Shah Ibrahim. Okay. Uh, Sorry. He knew their dodges, knew their every trick, and he was again a cunning man, a wise man, feared like the plague. He was okay. By those beneath, he had a lovely dwelling on a heath. He had a lovely house or a place, shadowed in green by trees above the sward, a better hand at bargains than his lord. He was better than his lord when it comes to bargains. He had grown rich and had a store of treasure, well tucked away, yet out it came to pleasure. And he again he hid money from his master. He took some money, or he kept some money for himself from his master. His lord with subtle loans or gifts of goods to earn his thanks and even coats and hoods. When young, he'd learned a useful trade, and still, when he was young, he learned how to be a skillful carpenter. He was a carpenter of first rate skill. He was a mastering carpenter, an excellent carpenter. The stallion cob he rode a stallion. You know, a stallion is a male horse. You know, a female is a mare. The male is a stallion. The stallion cob he rode at a slow trot. He was riding slowly, was dapple gray, and bore the name of Scott. This is the name of the stallion. He wore an overcoat of bluish shade, as you can see here. Uh, no, this is the summoner. Sorry, this is the picture of the summoner. He wore, and rather long, he had a rusty blade slung at his side. He came, as I heard tell, from Norfolk. This is a town in England, near a place called Boltswell, or yeah, maybe Boltswell. His coat was tucked under his belt. His coat was put under his belt and splayed. He rode the hindmost of our cavalcade, and he was the last person in the or of the pilgrims. And then come the turn of the seminar. But let's summarize what we said about the reeve again. He was traveling again. A reeve is a manager of an estate. He rode a stallion, and he was riding slowly. The man himself is skinny and bad tempered, short beard, short haircut, long thin legs, blue overcoat, rusty bladed knife, old, choleric, or bad tempered. As I said, the bad points: he is a greater burglar who has put away money for himself through his shrewdness or cunningness and deals. He is hated and has a very bad temper, and he is intimidating. This is the reeve. As for his the good points or the good characters about his himself or characteristics: capable, efficient, could predict next year's crop by studying and observing natural weather phenomena like drought, rain, and etc. All of the masters holding were under his charge. He is a master carpenter. Okay, he is an excellent carpenter. Then let's move on to the summoner. And here I want someone to read, please. Uh, who can help me with reading the summoner? Summer. Thank you, Summer. Go ahead. Start here. There was.
There was a summoner with us as in the place who had a fire red cherbinish face, for he had the carbuncles. His eyes were narrow. He was as hot, Mr. Ida, and
Lectures.
letters as a sparrow.
Yeah.
A black scabby brows he had, and a thin beard. Children were afraid when he appeared. No quicksilver lid ointments, tartar creams,
Correct.
boric, إيه ده?
Nor brimstone. Go on.
So it seems, could make a sylph that had the power to bite, clean up or cure his works or of knobby white, or purge the pimples sitting on his cheeks, garlic he loved, and onions too, and
Leave.
leeks. And drinking strong wine till all was hazy. Then he would shout and jabber as if crazy, and wouldn't speak a word except in Latin. When he was drunk, such tags as he was patting, he only had a few, say two or three, that he had mucked up out of some degree. No wonder, for he heard them every day. And as you know, a man can teach a jay to call out Walter better than the Pope. But had you tried to test his wits and grope for more, you would have found nothing in the bag.
Quit,
Then
quit, Joris.
uh, was his tag. He was a gentle varlet and a kind one. No better fellow if you went to find one. He would allow just for a quart of wine.
Go on.
Any good lad to keep uh, concubine a
Goodbye.
concubine, a 12 month, and dispense it all together. Yet he could pluck a finch to leave no feather. And if he found some rascal with a maid, he would instruct him not to be afraid. In such a case of archon's
Archdeacon.
curse,
Archdeacon's curse.
archon's curse, unless the rascal's soul were in his purse. For in his purse the punishment should be. Purse is the good archdeacon's hell. Said
مصطلح
he.
حضرتك نسيت اسمي.
Wait, don't interrupt here, please. Summer.
But okay. But well, I know he lied in what he said. A curse should put a guilty man in dread. For curses kill, as shivering brings salvation. We should beware of excommunication. Thus, as he pleased, the man could bring duress on any young fellow in that ducas. He knew their secrets. They did what he said. He wore a garland set upon his head, large as the holy bush upon a stake outside an alley house, and he had a cake as round one, which it was his joke to wield as if it were intended for a shield.
Thank you very much, Summer. Maybe it was the longest description of any of the characters. Okay, we have here guys who was asking about his name. Who was asking about his name? Gentlemen. Hmm? Who was asking about his name, guys?
جمال.
Gamal? طيب, see, your friend is reading, Gamal. And يعني okay. Thank you very much, Summer. This is the summoner. I'd like to ask you a question. What is a summoner? What does a summoner do? What does a summoner do? If you know the answer, put your hand up, please. What does a summoner do? What's a summoner? Summoner. Quickly, please. What is a summoner? What does a summoner do? Okay, Summer, go ahead. Summer, do you want to answer?
I am Mister.
What's
I think يعني
what's a summoner? No problem. Say your opinion.
هو حاجة في الchurch يعني.
Not exactly. He is at the court of law. Summon means call, Summer, okay? Summon means call. You know, in the court, when the judge wants a criminal or something, he asks someone to call his name, right?
أيوة.
The person who calls names is the summoner because he summons.
Mister, he's a person who calls someone to the court.
Yes, thank you, Abdurrahman. I was just saying it. So, summon means call names. A summoner is a caller, like a caller, a person who calls criminals'
Mister,
names
مش هو isn't there different
in
meanings for
English.
it? Like different.
Speak in English,
Okay.
please. Yeah.
Isn't
Here,
there different meanings for it?
yeah, but here it's this job, the job we're talking about, a person at a
Okay.
courtyard or a courtyard of law, a person who calls, let's say, defendants' names or criminals' names or people who are accused of any case type. Let's read in the summary of the character of the summoner. He was traveling on a horse. Again, his job is to sum yeah. يعني here the definition I have here in the summary I posted in SMS is, as Hania said, it has both meaning. A person who sums people, sinners, to church and to court trials. And if you are a sinner, a person who either summons them or calls them to church or to a court trial. يعني both meanings are okay. Thank you, Hania. He had narrow eyes, black scabby eyebrows, thin beard. This is the physical description. Don't take much care of it. Red face full of pimples. His face was full of pimples. He loves garlic, onions, and leek, and strong wine. He wears a garland. A garland is a circle of flowers on his head. Children are afraid of him. His litres, the meaning of litres, you can look it up. Okay, the sentence coming back. He enjoyed the pleasures of life. He did whatever bad he could think of. This is the meaning of litres. Only knows a few words in Latin. At that time, courts used Latin most of the time. He could, or he uses them over and over. The few Latin words he knew. He is easily bribed. You can give him a bribe. He knows many secrets. He uses blackmail. He steals people's money. Loves to drink and carouse. Again, carouse means live a lecherous life. If we talk about the good points about him, none, except he is good at what he does. This is the only good thing about him. He was good at what he does, and all the things he does are bad. Okay, let's move on to the partner. And I want someone to tell me the meaning of the word partner. What does a partner do? What does a partner do? Take your time and tell me. It's here, line 689. Mirna?
I think he's the one responsible, and he claims that he forgives people for their sins in the church.
Thank you very much. Hania? You want to add something?
I was gonna say the same thing. Sorry.
Okay, great. So when I pardon you, I forgive you. Simply, when I pardon you, you say pardon me or pardon. Pardon means forgive. And a pardoner was someone who in the past, maybe in Middle Ages, I'm not sure whether those people are still there or not, okay, who claimed that they had relics or something like souvenirs or remains from that belonged to the apostles, Jesus Christ, maybe, and sold this stuff to people for much money, okay? And he kept to pardon people or forgive them from their sins. If you committed a specific sin in the past, you would go to him and ask him to pardon you or forgive you, because he was authorized to do this from the Pope himself, as we will see. So who wants to read this part about the partner? The partner. Type. Karim, can you hear me? Karim?
أيوة.
Don't you think that you are very late?
معلش يا مستر أنا
Guys,
آسف
no
كنت
problem.
والله
Okay, Karim, I'll accept this. The last time for you all, the administration told us not to accept any person after 7 minutes from the start of or the beginning of the session. Please, يعني
مستر ما انتوا ساعات
سوري والله
بتتأخروا
مستر ما
علينا
كنتش في
يعني
البيت.
excuse me, Karim. Okay, I believe you.
سوري
But,
والله مستر ما كنتش في البيت.
okay, Abdurrahman, you were saying something?
Yes, Mr. I was saying sometimes you also like you be
حبيبي,
late on us.
يعني it is not said like that, حبيبي.
I
I said
Master, I'm
sorry.
just
Hello,
telling
hello,
about
hello,
you
hello, hello,
especially.
hello. You know I'm always
Hello.
punctual. I told you that I had some circumstances which stopped me from giving you the lessons, and I said sorry in public. I told the school, okay, and it was out of
Mister,
my
I didn't
hands.
say you, Mister. Mister,
No,
I
no,
didn't
no,
say
no,
you. I'm
no,
talking
no.
about
You said
teachers.
you. You said you. It's recorded.
Yes, you teachers, not you, Mr.
لا لا
Brahim.
لا خلاص.
I said حتى انتوا بالعربي.
عبد الرحمن يعني please, you know I'm punctual, you know I'm on time. It was out of my hand and you don't have the right to blame me for this, okay? Sometimes you, and when I tell you not to be late, to say you were late. Sorry. Okay, who wants to read? Abdurrahman, this is not a good attitude. And before you blamed me for delaying the quiz, and you know it was out of my hand. It was because of the school's administration. Please, يعني, be more polite. I'm sorry. And somebody said to me it's not acceptable, and the other guys like. And it's not proper to say or to tell your teacher that something is unacceptable. Okay, some guy wrote it's unacceptable to do such and such, and the others like. And people I respect like this. You should tell your friend that this is not proper to talk to a teacher like that. I'm sorry, the session is recorded. Who wants to read, guys? Myrna, can you read, please?
Yes, okay.
Sorry, Myrna.
He and a gentle pardoner rode together, a bird from sharing cross of the same feather. Just back from visiting the court of Rome, he loudly sang, "Come hither, love, come home." The summoner sang deep seconds to this song. No trumpet over sounded half so strong. This pardoner had hair as yellow as wax, hanging down smoothly like a hank of flax. In driplets fell like locks behind his head, down to his shoulder, which they overspread. Thinly they fell like rat tails, one by one. He wore no hood upon his head for fun. The hood inside his wallet had been stowed. He aimed at riding in the latest mode. But for a little cap his head was bare, and he had bulging eyeballs like a ear. He'd sewed a holy relic on his cap. His wallet lay before him on his lap, brimful of pardons come from Rome, all hot. He had the same small voice a goat has got. His chin, no beard had harbored nor would harbor. Smoother than ever chin was left by barber. I judge he was a gelding or a mare.
Go on.
As to his trade, from Berwick down to Ware, there was no partner of equal grace, for in his trunk he had a pillow-case, which he asserted was Our Lady's veil. He said he had a goblet of the sale. Saint Peter had the time when he made bold to walk the waves till Jesus Christ took hold. He had a cross of metal set with stones, and in a glass a rubble of pigs' bones. And with these relics, any time he found some poor up-country parson to astound, on one short day in money down, he drew more than the parson in a month or two, and by his flatteries and prevarication, made monkeys of the priest and congregation, but still to do him justice first and last, in church he was a noble uh, ecclesiast. How well he read a lesson or told a story, but best of all he sang an offertory. For well he knew that when that song was sung, he'd have to preach and tune his honey tongue, and well he could win silver from the crowd. That's why he sang so merrily and loud.
Thank you, Mirna. It was so tiring, I know. Let's start from the beginning. He is the summoner, the person who was described before the partner. He and the gentle partner rode together, and both people maybe were friends. A bird from Charing Cross. Charing Cross is a cross road in London. Trafalgar Square, the place where pigeons live and people feed them and so on. This place is called Charing Cross, of the same feather. Yani, you know the saying that says birds of a feather flock together. Yani, they were similar. They were both cheaters. They were both corrupt and so on. Just back from visiting the court of Rome, he was visiting Rome, the Pope himself. He loudly sang. He was singing loudly, "Come hither, love, come home." The summoner sang deep seconds to this song. Okay, he, the partner, and the summoner sang the loudest of the pilgrims. No trumpet ever sounded half so strong, and his voice was louder than a trumpet. You know, trumpet has a strong sound. This partner had hair as yellow as wax, hanging down smoothly. This is his physical description. Uh, up to here, thinly and fill. He wore no hood upon his head for fun. The hood inside his wallet had been stowed. He aimed at riding in the latest mode, but for a little cap, his head was bare. He had bulging eyeballs like a rabbit's eyeballs. He'd sewed a holy relic on his cap. If we have a look at the cap here, maybe this is the partner. If you look at his cap here, you would find something. Maybe this is a relic that belongs to Christ or some of the apostles or something holy. Okay, he sewed this relic to his cap, and uh, his wallet lay before him on the lap, or on his lap. He was carrying a wallet all the time, this one, because again, he used to get money and maybe jewelry from people for the relics uh, he claimed to have. Brimful of pardons. The wallet was brimful, full of pardons, come from Rome, all hot. He's just come from Rome. As you know, he was visiting the Pope. He came back loaded with many relics. He had the same small voice a goat has got. His voice was similar to a goat's voice or sound. His chin was no beard, had harbored. He had no beard. Again, let's look at the picture here, as if he were a young boy or gelding. You know, a gelding is, you look at the meaning up yourselves, or a mare, as if you were a gelding or a mare. You know, a mare is a female, and females don't have beards, as you know. Uh, as to his trade, as to his job, from Berwick down to where there was no partner of equal grace, he was the best one of them, or maybe the holiest. For in his trunk he had a pillowcase which was full of relics. Again, he gives you a relic, and you give him money, which he asserted was Our Lady's veil. Yani he claimed that he had Mary's veil. You know, Mary, Our Lady, was veiled, and he claimed that this, or he had her veil. If you want to buy this or Mary's veil, you would give him, of course, a large sum of money. He said he had a goblet of the sail St. Peter had the time when he made bold to walk the waves. The Christians believe that, I think, St. Peter walked on waves and he had a sail or something. Maybe he had parts of this sail or the very sail St. Peter used till Jesus Christ took hold. He had a cross of metal set with stones, and this is a list of the let's say, relics he had and sold to people as holy things. Again, the man was as corrupt as the summoner. They both were similar. Let's read the summary of the pardoner's character. Again, a pardoner sells pardons. He traveled on a horse. uh, he had yellow, long, greasy hair that is thin and hangs to his shoulders. He wears a little cap, no hood, bulging eyeballs, no beard, was either a gelding or a mare. Remember this? Reference to his perverse, uh, he was interested in pleasures and so on, carried a pillowcase of relics. He carried a pillowcase full of relics. And the negative points about his character: he was the most corrupt and despicable of all the pilgrims. He wants money, sells fake relics. He sells fake relics and takes advantage of the poor country people. He sings the loudest at the offerings. If we talk about his positive points, none. He had none, except he too, like the summoner, is good at what he does. Let's move on to the last character, uh, or the host himself. If you remember, the name of the horse was Harry Bailey. Uh, Harry Bailey. Now, I have told you shortly, uh, in a clause, the rank, the array, the number, and the cause of our assembly, our group in this company in Southwark. This is how this town's name is pronounced, Southwark, at that high class hostelry known as the Tabard. Again, the Tabard is the inn close beside the bill. And now the time has come for me to tell how we behaved that evening when we were in the inn. I'll begin after we had alighted at the inn. Then I report our journey stage by stage, all the remainder of our pilgrimage. But first, I beg of you, in courtesy, not to condemn me as unmannerly if I speak plainly and with no concealings. And I will be honest, I will be frank, I will tell everything as or as, exactly like it was said. I will not conceal anything. I will not conceal any word. Sometimes you'll find the language very sexual, bawdy, impolite. He wants you to forgive him and give account of all their words and dealings. And I'll use their very words, using their very phrases as they fell, as they pronounced or uttered them. For certainly, as you all know so well, he who repeats a tale after a man, sorry, is bound to say as nearly as he can. Yani if you retell a story, you should be as, let's say, precise or as accurate as you can. Each single word, if he remembers it, however rudely spoken or unfit, even if, this is his opinion, if this word is rude or unfit, you should, let's say it or tell it as, or the same way as it was said. I'll pause here, and because we still have just 1 minute before the end of the session, so we still have about 2 or 3 pages uh, before the end of the prologue. See you after the 5 minute break, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.